Hey everybody, it would be awesome if you like this video and please subscribe. It really helps my channel. If I provided you any value at all, like this video, subscribe. If you want an advanced training on sales, you have to go to skool.com/SLIC100. This is going to be my advanced sales training and it has 6 courses plus a bonus course in there for all of you guys. It's going to be a real breakthrough if you guys join my school, but please like and subscribe this video. The link to the school training is going to be down below. It's school.com/slick100. See you guys there. So Sean, tell us a little bit about your experience the past week and a half and things you learned or maybe questions that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in the past 2 weeks, there's been a ton I've learned actually. I've had a bunch of questions about obviously legacy, overall how like life insurance should be sold, and how like I don't know, for me, it was realistically more so of believing into the product and like really leaning into that. And what's allowed me to do that is legacy. Um, like I really believe in how much like you're hooking people up when you hook them up with legacy, and that's something that I've learned about and that has really helped me sell on the phones. Like every time I talk about it, I'm like super excited. So that's something that's been like a really big highlight for me and a game changer for me is legacy. Um, but another thing is like we've been learning from I believe last name Voss, but the head negotiator for the FBI, and he's taught me so much. Like I had previous sales experience just off of reps and calling people, cold calling, literally just trying my best to get someone a policy. But realistically, I learned nothing really about these tactics, these sales tactics. Like I'd maybe applied them before just because it's worked, and I've just kind of been like, oh, so this, oh, mirroring, labeling, all that stuff. I've maybe put into practice beforehand, but I never did it intentionally. So what's allowed me to do that over the course of the last 2 weeks is like obviously learning from him, applying it real time. Also just teaching others about it too. I feel like the more you teach people, the better you are at it. But that's been another really, really big highlight. Is just learning from him and like obviously these new concepts, and like I feel like I'm genuinely back in school, like excited to learn every day in these morning meetings because I like literally have my notebook full of notes just of something that I'm actually genuinely learning about. Um, and something that's just brand new to me. But obviously, like the biggest highlights is I've done pretty well on the phones too. Lucas thrown me into a couple of these inbounds. I've been able to actually get a few sales. I'm up to I believe 8 or 9 now. So that's obviously really really good. And I haven't really been able to even dial full time like I would like to. So as soon as I'm free off all this other stuff, I'm ready to just go full gas and just into final expense, lean into it, and really you know get it going, man.
So we'll keep it quick. You're 1 to 2 weeks in, but I also saw that you just got your first agent coded to you. So that's really exciting. So you're 1 to 2 weeks in. You got about 8 sales, 8 to 9 sales under your belt, and then you also have your first agent, or maybe even 2 agents coming on board now. So why did you start hiring, even though you maybe have not even known legacy, you didn't know the full system? What even got you to want to hire in the first place?
Um, Realistically, like I think as an agent, you should always be thinking about long term and what the long term goal is. So, in my opinion, the faster you get people under you, the faster you build a team, the faster you're going to learn. And for me, like long term, I think life insurance is like something I'm going to be doing for a very long time. So, the sooner I start to learn these lessons, the sooner I start to apply myself to not only just like recruiting, but teaching people, getting people under you, being a leader, talking to people, doing reps with them, learning about the different types of people that come in as well, whether they be, this type of person or that type of person, or, whatever it may be, and how to handle those things. I feel like that's what's really been motivating me. I think running the business in the back end has just been what I've wanted to learn about because previous to this, I was, 8, 10 hours a day just on the dials, almost like an employee, right? But what I want to learn about is how the business works. How does this work? How does that work? What does the underwriting look like? Why? Why is it like that? And then also on my end, how do I recruit? How do I teach people? How do I be that leader for people that are under me? What does that look like? What are the expectations? You know what I mean? So, um,
So the main thing that looks like you sounds like what you're saying is you want to be an expert in your field and you want to become a better leader, right?
yeah,
And so that's what hiring is all about. It makes you the expert in your field, right? I talked to you guys about hire, sell, train, recruit, repeat. And so these things that I've taught you, these things that I've learned have actually come from my expert leader, Mitch Connor, who's been my mentor since January of 2024. So we've been working for a very long time together now, and he's helped build me into the leaders that you guys see. He's helped me build me into the expert that you guys have been seeing pour into you guys each and every single day. And that's because I'm able to actually reach out and have direct contact with one of the senior vice presidents at Senior Life Insurance Company who's been at the same carrier for over 35 years for the reasons that we have just shared with you, because you want to build something that lasts. He has really high standards for me. And so when it comes across like I'm being brash or I'm being harsh to you guys, it's because I have those high standards that are coming from the top down, right? But we talked earlier about what makes people better, having high standards. So I'm going to introduce Mitch Connor, our guest speaker on today's call. I'm going to ask him a little bit of questions about just having high standards in your business. What does that look like? And how can we all strive to have higher standards to really have, to be that expert leader that we're looking to be? Mitch, thank you so much.
Hey, Luke, thank you for having me on this morning. And I enjoyed listening to Sean. Sean, how long have you been with us?
About 2 weeks now. This is going to be the
That's
start of my
awesome.
third week.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
you've learned a lot in 2 weeks.
Yes, absolutely.
Based on what I've heard, I can tell that you're headed in the right direction. You know, guys, uh, for for those of you who have never heard me speak before, uh, you're going to hear things that other people have heard me say continuously about setting high standards, and that basically is simply this: you know, you've got to be a person of integrity. At the end of the day, you've got to be a person of integrity. You know, when I first started doing this 35 years ago, I was only going to be here till I found something better. And the reason for that is because in my mind, I thought all insurance agents were crooks. I'm not going to lie to you. And the only reason I started working here was because I couldn't find a job anywhere else. Okay. So I made up in my mind once I've started doing this, and I realized that this was truly an opportunity that I didn't want to pass up. It's a life-changing opportunity. That's when I made up in my mind, I'm not going to be like everyone else. I'm going to set my standards higher. I'm going to set my standards higher. And the first thing that I said that I was going to do was I was going to always be honest with the client and always be honest with the company. And I've said that over and over and over again. But I'm going to share something with you. You can't go wrong by doing right. And that's just the right thing to do. In this fast-paced world we live into, or we live in, there's so many insurance agents today that are worried about that quick buck. What can I make today? What can I make this week? Not what can I make 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Okay. And if you really just kind of throw business on the wall and see what sticks and telling them any and everything you can to get the sale, let me share this with you. You will not last in this industry. And I guarantee you that you will not be a part of Senior Life. And I don't mean to come across hard on you. I'm just saying, guys, be honest. Always be honest with the client first and with the company, and everything else will take care of itself. See, we talk about giving people peace of mind so that when they're no longer here and their families gathered around the funeral home and they're burdened emotionally, they won't be burdened financially because we will be there for them through the policy that they purchased at Senior Life. So it's so important that when we enroll someone, that we don't paint a pie in the sky type of program that doesn't do what it says it's going to do. Always tell them the truth. Tell them exactly how it works. If it's a preferred, super preferred, or whatever, make sure you put them in the right product. If it's a 2-year modified or a 3-year guaranteed issue, make sure you explain how the benefits work and let them know what they have. Now, that's one aspect of being successful in this business. If you do that, you will be here long term. Now, if you set those type of high standards and being here long term, what you're going to learn is there's going to be a payback for just doing what's right. Do what's right just because it's right. But if you do what's right here at Senior Life, you will find out that the renewal income that you can create by doing business the right way is life changing, not only life changing for you, but if you plug in and you build an organization and build it the right way, it's life changing for the people that you bring on board, but it's also life changing for your family. Generational wealth is what I'm talking about. See, a lot of people don't realize it. So I'm going to kind of tell you how we all got started here. And some of you have heard this story, some of you have not. But when I first started, there were five of us. We didn't even have an office. We worked out of our homes. We didn't even have TV leads. What's the live transfer? Nobody knew what a live transfer was, right? So what we worked was direct mail, and we would travel every week. We spent a night in motel rooms 3 and 4 nights a week. Well, there were five of us. We didn't even have an office. Worked out of our homes. But by the mid 90s, we had gotten to the point that we were the premier final expense agents in America. We were doing back then $2 million, $3 million worth of production a month, which if you multiply that to what in today's dollars, that's about 9 to 10 million a month in annual premium. Okay. So we became the premier final expense agency for another company. And we wanted to have some ownership since we were doing 75% of their business. And they didn't think it was a good idea. We went and talked to them about it, and that's okay. I mean, that's their prerogative, you know. And we didn't leave right then because we didn't have the funds available, but we set a standard that within a 5-year period, we were going to buy our own insurance company. And within 5 years, Dell and Ron Powell had accumulated enough renewal income from the other company we were working with to purchase what was called Providence Security, which has been in business since 1970. And we changed the name to Senior Life Insurance Company. 6 South States, more in DC, and soon to be in Puerto Rico. So I said that all that to say this. If you set the standard high, you always do what's right for the client and for the company, you'll create life-changing income from first-year commissions to renewal commissions. Because here's what you need to understand. With our company, you're vested from day one and you have lifetime vesting. As long as they continue to pay, you continue to get paid. Okay? So that's where that generational wealth can come into. So when we bought the company, there was no money borrowed to buy this company. It was purchased with residual income that had been accumulated. And they allowed myself and 3 or 4 other people to become shareholders at that time as well. So that just gives you an idea of what you can accomplish through just doing what's right and plugging into the process. Because when you do that, you'll get rewarded. Now, let's talk about everlasting legacy.
Let me
How many of you?
let me
Go
jump
ahead.
in here real quick. So I thank you so much for sharing all that. So that just goes to show the foundation of the company. The foundation of the company, what they were willing to build from ground zero to today, right? Think about in 35 years, where can you be, right? I told you the story that, I just purchased a house with 2 pay-throughs and I paid off my whole tax bill with another pay-through. This is the power that he's talking about, right? And so I was able to build a team effectively and consistently with the systems. And one of the systems that Senior Life put into place was legacy. So, Mitch, I'm going to ask you about legacy. How did legacy get started? And maybe what are some stories that you've heard about legacy that we should know that would really change our viewpoint on and perspective on legacy?
Sure. And that's a good point. Everlasting legacy was started for 2 reasons: to create more value for our clients and to add value to our agents' income. And how does it do that? Well, when you tie legacy in with the policy, they don't have to buy the policy to get legacy. They can get it by itself, but you always tie it in. Okay. It makes the value of that policy that you've just sold go up for 2 reasons. Legacy negotiates the cost of the funeral services that the funeral home offers, and they lock in the casket, vault, and headstone. Okay. So what that does, it adds more value to their policy. Therefore, when somebody comes in and they try to replace senior life, and legacy is part of the senior life program, it's hard for them to justify replacing a senior life policy. So it increases persistency. It stays on the books. It saves money for the client through the negotiation services and through the locked in cost of the casket, vault, and headstone. But it also creates value for the agent, because when you have higher persistency, I put it this way: when it stays, it pays. And with legacy, it helps it stay. And every time they pay, you get paid, beginning of the 13th month, right? So that's one of the reasons that we created legacy, to add value to our clients and to also create a more solid foundation for our agents to build something of lasting value for them and their families as well. See, the power of renewals, again, is so, so strong. Let me say this about legacy also. You need to also add in the living benefits if you're not talking about that. Okay. Legacy offers living benefits as well. Okay. 24/7 telehealth with a copay, I think, of like 40 something dollars. It saves the family a lot of money. Instead of having to go to the emergency room, they can get on the phone. We've had people use that. It saves them a lot of money. 24/7 telehealth. Then you got the Nation's Hearing, which is discounted. You get up to 40 to 50% discounts on hearing aids. I've heard stories of our people who've saved a lot of money doing that. Diabetic supplies, prescription drug card. These types of things help families while they're living. And then, of course, when they pass away, they have the death benefit savings. That I've used legacy personally for my father-in-law and my brother. And here's how it works. I mean, and if you've not had an opportunity to use it, you can use my story. When my father-in-law passed away, we contacted Legacy. Legacy contacted the funeral home. They negotiated the professional services that they offer. And at the end of the day, they gave me a list of what those costs would be. Okay. And at that time, I chose a casket from Legacy. So the next day, I took my mother-in-law up to the funeral home, and we sat down in that room that you sit down in. Okay. You compare everything. I looked at their professional services and the pricing, and I already had Legacy's list of what they had already negotiated, everything lined up. And I was able to tell the funeral director that we'd write a check for that right now. He said, well, before you do that, we need to go pick out a casket. I said, we won't need to do that. I'm going to have a mahogany casket delivered today by 5 p.m. We were able to get a mahogany casket from my father-in-law for $2,000. I think the total package for my father-in-law, including the casket, was less than $7,000. You know, and then so that's a true story. You could actually say one of my clients or someone I know used Legacy, if you want to use that in your presentation, because that's a true story. Okay, I like this interview process, Luke. What's next?
Absolutely. So if you were to explain legacy, you would explain it with stories, but what are some of the other ways that we can explain legacy that you know of?
You know, every time that I'm in a sales situation, and which, believe it or not, guys, even though I'm a senior VP, we still do sell once a week. Okay. Our CEO requires everyone in the home office to do that. We're not 100% where everybody's doing it right now, but we're getting close. And the reason we do that is because we want our people in the home office that support you to know what you go through. Okay. Now, I always just use stories. I mean, to me, and here's why. Guys, when you're selling something, all you're doing is painting a picture. Okay. And I've used this analogy before. How many of you are aware of who Bob Ross is? Okay, if you remember the white guy with the fro on public TV, he would be painting pictures. Okay. and he would be describing what he's painting. Let me get a few head nods if anybody knows what I'm talking about. The guy's name was Bob Ross. All right. So we tell agents, you've got to Bob Ross the presentation. So what you got to do is you got to help them see the need. The words that you use will help them see what they need. You're going to paint a picture of what that day is like when they are no longer here and their families gathered around the funeral home. So that way you're selling more on a need type basis instead of selling on, you know, the benefits of the plan, which is to me, when I say benefits, are the features. That's a better word, features. You know, the features are the premiums never increase, benefits don't decrease, right? Policy can never be canceled. Listen, people don't buy for those reasons. You need to tell them about those things, but they buy because you have painted a picture with your words of why they need this. That makes sense?
That makes perfect sense. That's really good. So that's kind of going into our next segment of building value in ourselves and the carrier. So people don't buy because of necessarily the products, the name of the company, even the cost and the coverage. None of those things actually matter. Building value in ourselves and in the carrier. What are some tools, tips, and tricks that you have in building value in ourselves and the carrier?
You know, here's what you'll this is I let's put it this way. The carrier, that's the last thing they're concerned about, because here's what you got to understand. The company is only as good as the man representing the company. And they know that. So they've got to trust you and believe in you. Okay. So the way that you do that is you have to slow down in your presentation. You've got to, your tonality needs to change. You need to pause at certain parts of your presentation and just win their trust. Win their trust. They need to believe in you. Funny thing is, I can remember back in the day when I was selling all the time or training people to sell, I never even said who the company was until I got time to get the check, or got time to get the when it was on telesales, the routing number and account number. Okay, because people don't really care about who the company is. They want to know who they're doing business with, and I let them know that I'm going to be there for them. So when I get through making the sale, I do what's called the takeaway and the commitment. And it goes something like this. When I get through, I'll tell them to get a pen, because I do everything on the phone. Now, Miss Jones, make sure you get a pen. I want you to write down some information. Okay, what we've done now is we've enrolled you with a $10,000 natural death and a $20,000 accidental plan. And in that enrollment, the monthly premium is going to be $54.85. And then you also see a separate payment of $4 a month for Everlasting Legacy when you get your statement every month. Okay. Just make sure you look at it and make sure it's taken care of. Now, in about 7 to 10 business days, you'll get your policy in the mail. And I want you to get it, and I want you to look over it, and I want you to put it in a very, very safe place. Okay. So I want to finish with this before we get off the phone. Ms. Jones, what we've done here is very important today. But what I'm about to talk to you about next is the most important thing we can talk about. And that is, we have made a commitment to you today that when you're no longer here, that we're going to be there for your family. But Ms. Jones, that commitment can only be as good as your commitment to us as well. And this is what I mean by that. If you're satisfied with what you've done for your family today, then I know that when you're no longer here, this program will be in place because you'll be committed to keep it. So, Ms. Jones, I'm going to ask you an important question. Are you satisfied with the decision that you made for your family today? And they always say yes. And then I simply say, well, thank you. And I want to thank you for putting your trust in me. This is my phone number now. And I give them my phone number. I give them my cell phone too, by the way, guys, when I used to be in sales every day. And I give them my number to the office. And if you ever need me, do not hesitate to call me, okay? That's it. So I've created value in who I am to them. I've created value through our everlasting legacy. I've created value in the fact that our company is going to be there for them when they need it the most. So value selling is very, very important, and you can only do it if you believe in the value that we provide people. And I truly, guys, I believe in it wholeheartedly. And it's just amazing. I mean, I could come up with story after story after story, but I've seen us help people um, when they need it the most. You know, I've seen it time and time again through the years. What's next, Luke? Unmute.
You're muted, brother.
Yep.
That makes sense. Sean, what did you get out of that, Sean? What are some of the things that you pulled out of that and putting it into your own words?
Absolutely. So I wrote down a few things. My biggest point that I took away was the takeaway that he mentioned. Obviously, the recap at the end of the policy, make sure you solidify exactly what you've done for them. But this is something that I also do where it's like, even midway through the call, I feel like it's really important for you to say, hey, like, I take this position very seriously. I'm committed to being there for your family. And I take, my position very, I want you to take me seriously and make sure that we have a long-term relationship since I will be the one, handling your daughter when something happens to you. And I take that, position with pride. That's like literally something I always say on my call. Just to kind of build an emotional connection. But what you did is you also added on to that and made it so where you make it where they have committed to being there for us by keeping this policy in place so that we can commit to helping them out. Um, and the way you went about it was a lot better than the way I normally go about it or I typically do, even though, I have a little bit of the emotional side in there where they almost emotionally commit to having that relationship with me. It also allows you to make sure that they keep, what's in place. So that's the biggest thing that I took away and something that I am going to apply.
Awesome. Thank
Awesome.
you for sharing. That's
Yeah.
really good. So moving down, we want to talk a little bit. We touched on pay throughs, but I don't know if everybody really totally understands what a pay through is yet because we're all 1 to 2 weeks in. Most of the team that we have right now is on the 75% with immediate chargeback. So talk a little bit about pay throughs and renewals and how that works when you start building a team as well, please.
Glad to. Okay, so pay through uh, is the money. If you're on 75% advance, it's that 10th, 11th, and 12th month. Okay. So it basically means that beginning the 10th month, whatever is still on the books from 10 months earlier, you'll receive the last 3 months you'll receive whatever's remaining over the last 3 months of that year. Now, if you're on a 75% advance, which is good, which means your advances are going to come out of the front end instead of the back end, you're going to see that pay through quicker. I have a young man that probably in about 15 months, maybe, his pay through was building, of course, in the 10th month. But by the time he got maybe to the 13th or 15th month, he was getting a $10,000 a month pay through. That's strong. That's very strong. And how did he do that? Well, he wrote a lot of business, but what he wrote stayed on the books. Okay. And if he did write some like debit card or credit card and things like that, even though those are paid as earned, guess what, guys? He's still going to get it in the 10th, 11th, and 12th month. Okay. Does that clear up anything? Any questions about that?
Yeah, that's really good. So that's just show like, but if you give up before then, right? Like, let's get into a little bit of the mindset, right? I've had so many agents that come in and then month 8, they're starting to, they may have puttered out, they may have lost some motivation. And then all of a sudden, 3 or 4 months later, they call me and they're like, Luke, I started getting my pay throughs. I'm like, that's crazy. Where have you been the last 4 months? So what would you say to somebody that's almost at that breakthrough point on getting the renewals and just keeping people motivated?
You guys, what I would say. to to be successful in this business, you've got to trust the process. Okay. Don't get too high, don't get too low, just trust the process. Okay. We face rejection every day. And if you put the pressure on the wrong thing, which is yourself, your ability to overcome objections, or you got to sharpen your skills. I'm not saying don't do that, but put it on the process, because the process won't fail you. Okay. So when you get discouraged, you've got something back to fall back on, instead of, what am I doing? I don't know what I need. Luke, I need some help, man. I'm going crazy here. What am I doing? No, what you do is trust the process. And the process is simply this. If you're an average salesman, if you'll focus on doing 15 presentations a week, you'll make money. Okay. What is 15 presentations? Everything from "Hello, Miss Jones, my name is," to where you give them 3 choices and attempt to overcome the objection. Okay. That was always my goal. When I first got started, I was not the best salesperson, but one thing you would not do is you would not outwork me. Okay. My work ethic was second to none. It took me longer to get the production than it did other people. But see, I got to the point to where I put the pressure on the process. For me, that means I know that if I get 15 presentations a week, I'm going at that. Back then, it'd be 5 sales a week. Today, it would be 8 to 10 sales. Okay. Because of my skill level has increased. So put the pressure on the process. What's that look like? I mean, basically, be honest with the people, be coachable, follow your leadership, and have a burning desire to succeed. Okay. And that just means to work hard. Okay. And in that process, what you're doing is basically 6 steps. You're making the call, you're warming up, you're transitioning into the presentation, you're giving a 3-choice close, and then you're making a commitment after you sell it. Okay. That's the process. Do that 15 times a week and you'll be okay. And that means sometimes you're going to get live transfers. So it'll be a lot easier to get those presentations in. Sometimes you're not able to get live transfers on a consistent basis because we can't always control that. So you got to do some outbound dialing. Whatever it takes is what you got to do. Here's the thing. You're not in a job. This is your business, so you better run it like a business. And if you're not on that phone dialing out or trying to get calls every day on a consistent basis, if you got your doors closed, your business can't make money.
That's so good. In the realm of building a business, having mentorship is super important. I reach out to you probably at least once a week, if not twice a week, right? So, and if there's times or things that I'm struggling, I reach out and I call Mitch and I say, hey, this is what I'm going through. This is what I need help with. I just need a little bit of a boost, right? Because I'm willing to take that step and be humble, right? So if you guys are coming in here on the call and you're having a tough week, right? There's times where I've gone 0 for 12, 0 for 15, 0 for 16. And then my late mentor, Abdul, when I call him, I say, hey, I had a really tough week. You know what he'd tell me? He said, try again tomorrow. He said, and so I'd have a really tough day and I'd come back and try again tomorrow. And guess what? I would close the deal. And every single day, as long as I was consistent, and try again tomorrow, because when you say, you know what, I'm going to try less hard today, then you try less hard the next day, then all of a sudden you're selling yourself out of your position and you're back to where you came from. So continue to push past that resistance. If you have a hard day, you have to come back tomorrow with a fresh mindset. And so in building and mentorship and leadership and time, what do you think are some of those elements that need to be addressed for a young leader who maybe hasn't really been an independent or hasn't really been a business owner, on their own for a while? What are some things that they need to focus on so they don't get distracted focusing on the wrong things?
Yeah, and that's a good question. Okay, so at the end of the day, production fixes everything. It's that simple. Okay, so you mentioned something similar to this earlier, Luke, and it's if you want to build an organization, okay, write this down. Produce, recruit, retain, repeat. Produce, recruit, retain, repeat. Time. Produce, recruit, retain, repeat. Okay, so first and foremost, if you're going to build a business, and I love the VCC model. It's so easy to do the VCC. Okay, when we produce, recruit, retain, repeat back in the first 15 years of our career, we were traveling, staying in motel rooms, so we'd have to meet the agent. They'd have to ride with us. We call it windshield time, they spending 2 or 3 days training them in the field. Okay. Here on the VCC, you can make it happen so much quicker, so much more efficient. Um, of course, if you're just beginning to build, you got to realize it will take a while before you can get to the point to where you don't need to produce personally. Luke's not there yet, and he knows that. As a matter of fact, when Abdul was with us before he passed away, he'd gotten to the point. He said, "My mind has changed about that. I used to think if I got to about where I was about 250,000 a month in production, I didn't have to personally produce. I could just help my agents." He said, "But now I realize the people that are, doing the $1 million a month, they're going backwards because they've stopped leading the way personally up front." So he said, probably it's going to be about when I get to that level, but I'm not going to stop at 500,000, 750. I'm going to keep personally producing. Here's the thing about it. While you're personally producing, you're training people too. So it's not taken away from what you're doing. As a matter of fact, Sean said it earlier, it just makes him better. When you train someone, it just makes you better. I want to perform better when I got somebody that's watching me. Okay. So produce, recruit, retention. Let's talk about retaining people. You know, a lot of agencies with other companies, I'm going to call them IMOs. Our company is a little bit different because we are the company. We're not an IMO or FMO. We are the company. But yet we talk to you about distribution models, how to create and build your own agency, that type thing. A lot of them will just hire a bunch of people and say, go get them. You've got to retain the people too. How do you do that? Well, before you even bring them on, you got to know what the expectations are. They've got to know what you expect them to do. And you need to let them put some expectations on you as a leader. That makes sense? It's a partnership. So retention starts before they even come on board, because if you don't know what the expectations are, then they won't stay very long. Okay. So you've got to put expectations on them. And you've also got to help people. That's the reason I love the VCC, because you can help people if they're struggling. You can help them. You've got chat rooms, I guess, and Luke, and all that.
Correct.
And I hope you're using them when you need to help somebody, or you hear someone that needs a little coaching and things of that nature. So anyway, produce, recruit, retain, and just do it again. Now, that sounds easy, but let's face it, we all get a little discouraged from time to time. We all get a little frustrated from time to time. But what keeps us from getting discouraged and what keeps us from getting frustrated is this simple truth that I learned many, many years ago. It took me a long time to learn it. But when I grabbed a hold of it, it was life-changing for me. Don't let what you can't control you. It's that simple. Don't let what you can't control you. So what does that look like? Well, it looks like focusing on what you can control. See, I can't help it if somebody hangs up on me if I'm trying to make a sale. I can't help it if they're rude to me. Okay. and I'm personally producing, trying to make a living for my family, and things don't go, Miss Jones, I can't get anybody on the phone. I can't help that. So don't focus on those things. And if I'm building an agency, I can't help it if Joe agent won't follow the system. I can't help it if he doesn't show up on time. I can't help it if he doesn't want to do it the way that I've taught him to do it. So I don't let those things bother me. How do I not focus on those type things? Because I focus on the things I can. And I've said this before, be a person of integrity. Always be honest with the client, always be honest with the company. The second thing is you got to be honest with yourself. Okay. Am I truly being a coachable person? I don't care if you're a leader or if you're just starting. Am I listening and applying? Just because you hear don't mean you apply. Okay. A lot of people hear things, but they don't do it, even though they've heard it. And then the last thing is having that burning desire to succeed. That's something you can't open me up and see if I've got it. I can't open you up inside and see if you have it. That comes from your why. And what I mean by that, anytime you got something burning, there's got to be fire or fuel. What is your fuel? Right? What is your fuel? For me, I didn't have much fuel my first year or so because I didn't want to be here. But when my first daughter came, that changed things a lot. Okay. It really changed things a lot. Back then we lived in a 14 by 52 single wide mobile home. It was a 2-bedroom. Her bedroom was supposed to be her bedroom was so small we couldn't even put a baby bed in it. So I had to build another bedroom off the back of the mobile home, and so that she could have our bedroom. And I can remember once she started talking, we were still living in that mobile home, and my wife taught her to say something. And we were leaving early on one Monday morning, I think, to go up to Chattanooga to work that week, which is about 6 hours from where we live. And she said, "Tell your daddy what I taught you." And she said, "Dada, make me money." Ever since then, yeah, that was kind of like I can remember that to this day. That was a change in my mindset. So what's your why? What's your fuel? I could talk all day long, guys. I know we've already
That was a really, really, really touching story. I'm really glad you shared that. And because I've known you personally a little bit, you said it was 16 by 52. And I'm not going to tell people how many acres, but Mitch has a property with acres now.
Yeah.
Acres on acres on acres that you can hunt, that you can fish. The home office is on acres. Guys, he started in a mobile home 16 by 52, and now he owns acres. If you guys haven't had a chance to Google Senior Life Insurance Company, their home office, it looks like a mega church. It has giant pillars, the woods, the marble, it's off the rails. And so I'm just super grateful that you shared that story with us, that you talked a little bit about sales, the company, why we're here, how to build and how to grow, and that we have that support, we have that expert leadership from you. So we're so grateful to have you on this call. Is it okay if we open it up for maybe a question or two?
Yes, please. Anybody.
Awesome. Okay, great. So 1 or 2 questions. This is usually the time where we get into role plays and practice sales development in our scripts. But I want to take the next maybe 5 minutes to it doesn't matter if it's personal, about sales, about senior life, just so you guys kind of know the type of backing that we have here. I'm going to open the floor now.
I want to say thank you. Can I say thank you?
Yeah. Thank you, Tim.
I have sold over 2,000 policies before I came here. Most of them were final expense. And what you have put together is what I had to do manually to add value to the client. I say, Mrs. Jones, maybe you only need to get 8,000 or 10,000 so it's affordable. All you need to Google low cost insurance. I'd show them how to find ways to cut their costs down, and by having legacy. And tell me if this idea is okay. I put it in the chat, but I have this idea while you're talking to me. I want to say something like this, Mr. Jones, because you have this legacy, with your policy, remember that you were able to purchase less coverage today because of what legacy will do for you and your family. And that without this valuable component, you'd need as much as 50 to 60% more coverage. And I even want to quantify if it's 10, I'll say, like 15 or 16,000 somewhere else. And do you understand that or something like that? Do you think that'd be a good thing to say as well?
Yes, certainly. I mean, you want to make sure you say it in such a way that they understand. Mr. Jones, they may have a life insurance policy already.
Yeah.
Maybe they got 10 or 15,000. But Mr. Jones, by the time that, we hope that you won't need that for many, many years.
Yeah.
And by the time you get there, that may not even be enough to take care of what your needs are then. But by us getting you a $4,000 plan here and the legacy is part of that package, you're locking in the rate of the vault, of the casket, vault, and headstone for, I think the total isn't $4,000, Luke. The total is 4,000. So
Really?
that'll be locked up for the lifetime. And yes, you can tie that in.
Casket, vault, and the headstone, that's 4,000?
I think that's correct. Luke, make sure that that's the correct number.
That is correct.
Okay.
And that's locked in no matter.
No matter.
And that's the vault too.
Yes. Now,
Whoop.
here's the funny thing about it depends on the cemetery
Okay.
as to whether or not they can use our vault or not.
No.
Okay. We don't know what that is until that time, depending on what cemetery they use. Because our cemetery, our vault is fiberglass vault. It's not the concrete vault. But the funny thing is, guys, some cemeteries don't require vaults. I mean, it's not, it's just up to the family. And I don't know if you guys know this, but there is federal law that the funeral homes cannot turn down a casket that the family
Yes.
Now, there are 3 states that will not allow merchandise to be shipped in. That's Virginia, I want to say Oklahoma, and I want to say Idaho. Is that right? No, I can't remember. It might have been Idaho.
It shows up automatically for legacy when we're in the app.
Okay. Yeah. And that's
really
that's the local laws. I mean, the state laws. What's another question?
I got a question.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Who's speaking?
This is Blake.
Blake. What's up?
Scott.
I know you.
I didn't actually know. So on paid as earned, you actually get paid on the 10th and 11th month?
On the paid as earned?
Yeah, like if you put someone's credit card on file, I didn't know you actually get paid eventually on that for some reason.
You do. What it'll do is it'll go to any chargebacks, lapses, or miscellaneous expenses monthly.
Right.
But, once you get to where you're in that back end money, that pay through money, anything that's paid, if it's positive after everything else is paid, then yes, you'll get paid as earned.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, you don't lose that money. You still get paid. You just don't get advanced.
Right.
I wonder where that idea came from, but no, I'm glad that we got that one answered, Blake.
Yeah, just because if it was a credit card, I would, it'd be a little bit harder to sell.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, don't turn it down because I mean, it's as long as it stays, it pays, and even on the it pay as earned on the debit or credit.
Yeah.
Let me say this though, guys. If they have a debit card, they have a routing number and an account number. So you got to talk about standards. You got to set a standard. Only way that I would take a card if it's credit card only, and they or Direct Express. You get paid on Direct Express.
Yeah, just as Direct Express usually was what it is,
Yeah.
but
you get paid as earned on that. Any other questions? Last one, unless you think we need to do more.
Yeah, I want to touch on focusing on what you can control. I think that's huge in this business, especially being a good salesman. It's like the biggest thing is honestly mindset, in my opinion. So any tips on like when something negative happens, you know, you have someone cuss you out on the phone or they hang up. Any tips on diverting your focus back to the positive things and away from the negative?
Yeah, that's a good question. Who was that from?
Zach.
Good question, Zach. It's like anything else. You never truly arrive to where you are 100% beyond the point of being, able to rise above things you can't control. It's just something you got to work on daily. But it's a process of just getting to it in your mindset. I mean, I have people now that that I mentored and worked with for many, many years. That is part of the way they think now. Is simply, and they simply say it. I can't let what I can't control me. Okay, and you have to. For me, I know what those things are. Okay, I'm always going to be honest. I don't care. I'm never going to get to the point where I learn it, know it all. And I'm always going to keep my why in my thought process. And my why today is a little bit different than what it was 30 plus years ago. My why today is not just about my family because we have been very, very fortunate, and I'm very, very thankful to be where we are. But my why now is you guys, helping you reach your dreams and goals in life. You know, uh, I always believe that if you put others first, everything else will take care of itself. So, I enjoy this part of my business more than I ever did, or more than anything else I've ever done, is helping people grow their business. So, at the end of the day, it's a discipline you have to work on daily. Okay, so let's take it a little bit further. Uh, you got to work on yourself mentally daily,
Mm,
emotionally, emotionally daily, and spiritually. Okay, all three of those things. That's just taking it one step further. So if you, and I got to get back to it. I've got so busy over the last recent months that I don't read as much as I used to. But you know, if my teachers in high school knew it now, they wouldn't believe it. But I love to read, and it's about you know um, something that's going to make me better. You know, and it's not about necessarily self-help books. I just love to pick up stuff here and there. You know, I don't know where I read. Don't let what you can't control you. I didn't make it up. I read it somewhere. You know, it made a difference for me. And here's an old read that I read that really made a difference in my life. Success is a Choice by Rick
mm.
Pitino. Very good book. And if you here's a real good book too, but it's more of a team type thing. It's the five dysfunctions of a team. What I like about it though is when you read it, you can see well, you don't have to, it doesn't necessarily have to be in a team setting, but you can see, and it's actually told, it's done in a story type um, setting. So you get to see all the truths come out in the fictional story, which is good. Here's another author, especially if you're into sports, Darren Donnelly. Darren Donnelly. He's got 7 books out, I think, that I have just really, truly enjoyed. Um, Trying to think.
I want
Am I-
to
Go ahead.
I want to give, so I know that we want to value your time. We've got about 4 minutes. So Sean, I think you unmuted yourself. If you have a question, I want to just leave that last question to you.
Yeah, thank you. So my question was just going to be more so about like team building and how to handle recruits and how to like really not only really just mainly about the retaining, right? Um, when you bring
Okay.
someone on, right? What is the mindset I have to continuously, embody and like what is the mindset I should always have? Whether it be you know, because I believe there's many different types of people. There's, you know, the type that's going to work really hard. There's a type that, you know, needs a little bit of extra help. There's a type that, you know, wants to be almost like needs to be told about their why and how to approach that. Like, what's the mindset I need to have as a leader when I'm bringing someone into this business? And how do I make sure that they're, you know, they actually do become like a part of that statistic where they're retained, where they stay in the
Yeah.
business?
So again, retention doesn't begin after they get started. Retention begins before they start.
Okay.
Okay. What I mean is, it's going to be a lot easier to retain somebody if you hire somebody that you're willing to have in your home for dinner. Okay. I mean, that's been around since Methuselah. I mean, it's forever. That rule of thumb is don't hire anyone that you will not bring into your home for dinner. Right. So that's the real deal. Somebody that you would be able to want to hang out, not just hang out and be friends with, but that you wouldn't mind being around. I mean, it's got to be a quality person. And then set the standards of expectations that you have for them and they have, and you've got to let them have the expectations of you. Okay. I've already went over what I think the expectations are that you should have for an agent very quickly: integrity, being coachable, and a strong work ethic. Okay. Those three things, you've got to lay those three guidelines down before they even come on board. And now the expectations they have on me, and I borrowed this from Marcus Lemonis. Y'all know Marcus? He was the prophet, not the prophet in the Bible, but the prophet on TV. In other words, he owns Bass Pro Shops and Camping World. Okay. Marcus Lemonis. We did this, but when I heard him say it, I started using this because he puts it in so I can understand it. Okay. Product, process, people. This is what you can expect from me. I'm going to provide you with the product that you need for the market we're in. We have every product that a final expense client needs, from some of the least expensive to a guaranteed issue. So we can qualify anybody. There's no need for you to have another company. Okay. We got the product. We've got the systems and processes in place. What are those? The leads. Okay. The application processing system. If you want to build your business, we even have a recruiting platform that you can plug into. We have Everlasting Legacy. We have Leads to Weights, all these platforms, right, that they can plug into. And then the third thing is you look them in the eye. Only if you can mean it. We believe that people are our greatest asset. So we're going to pour into you and help you grow your business. We expect this. This is what you can expect. That makes sense?
Wow.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
That was amazing. That was a really, really, really great way to end it. The process that Senior Life has really has allowed me to help build and help recruit, right? My biggest months, how I did 2 million, is because of those processes, because it's unique. No other carriers have those processes. So that's what allows it to be a unique driving force to bring people to Senior Life, for those processes that he just explained. That's in reality what all got you guys here. That's how I built those relationships with your guys' upline, because of these processes that you guys are now following. So use those processes as leverage to build your business. Mitch, thank you so much for being on the call today. We're super